Welcome to Watch Mojo, and today we're counting down our picks for the most glaring inconsistencies in popular horror films.
So if y'all want to get crazy, we can get crazy.
Spoilers will be revealed, so this is your official warning. Number 10, inconsistency in the death of Katie's mom, Paranormal Activity franchise.
Julie? What's wrong?
While adding a prequel into the franchise can be a great way of expanding on the lore, it also runs the risk of poking holes into past movies. Paranormal Activity is an unfortunate victim of this. In the original film, Mika makes a comment about how they shouldn't invite Katie's mother over after learning about a presence that feeds off of dark energy.
You shouldn't let your mother come over anymore, that's what he's really thinking.
It's a solid joke that was accidentally ruined years later when Paranormal Activity 3 came out. Katie's mother dies at the end of the prequel, meaning she had been dead years before the two had even met. It's hard to believe that Mika wouldn't know this about his partner, which makes his joke either extremely dark or nonsensical.
Come here.
Number 9, Chucky doesn't bleed. Curse of Chucky. Given that this series is about a murderous doll, it makes sense that the viewers would suspend their disbelief.
The heart! Shoot him in the heart!
However, it can be hard to ignore when sequels randomly change major attributes about the main character. Throughout the series, whenever the doll was killed, he would show physical signs of injury, primarily bleeding. However, in 2013's Curse of Chucky, the doll is stabbed and white stuffing comes out instead of blood. Not only was it a tad anticlimactic, it took away an interesting characteristic of the villain and reduced him to nothing more than a toy. More importantly, as a sequel, it should have remained consistent with the endings of the previous films. If it was a reboot, then it could have been forgiven.
No one's ever gonna believe this, you know that.
Number 8, Malis gets a phone call, the Wicker Man.
Give her a call.
I already tried that, but guess what? There's no phone service on Summer's Isle.
This bizarre Nicolas Cage movie isn't exactly known for its high quality, and the plot holes only add to that reputation. The most glaring issue is that it ignores the setting. Despite being on a secluded coast with no functioning cell service, the protagonist is somehow able to receive a phone call and hear the person on the other side. They could have gotten around this having Malis make the call, as emergency numbers are still available in areas with no cell signals.
Pete, help us! Help! Please! Please help!
Instead, they decide to leave the confusing moment as is. There are other inconsistencies as well, both in tone and in the story.
Oh, no, not the beast! Not the beast!
However, this feels the most egregious just based on how easily it could have been avoided. Number 7, Logans Plan, Jigsaw. It's common for the Saw series to implement a last-minute twist, and Jigsaw is no exception.
10 years ago in this very barn, a game was played.
It introduces Logan, a supposed scientist who is later exposed as both the game master and one of Jigsaw's original victims. He intends to take revenge on a detective who let his wife's murderer go free, and does so by recreating the game that he had lived through.
So now, 10 years later, I've recreated Jigsaw's game with criminals from your failed cases.
What?
However, it doesn't take much to realize that most of his plan only works thanks to chance. Everything would turn out completely differently if even one element didn't go as planned, leading people to wonder why recreating the first game was even necessary. He could have easily achieved the same result with a new game.
I speak for the dead.
Number 6, the killer is in two places at once. High tension. This French film is a solid thriller, marred only by one choice, revealing that the villain had actually been one of the main characters the whole time. This could have been a huge revelation if there weren't multiple instances of her being in another location when someone is attacked. There are even times she interacts with the killer herself. The filmmakers try to get around this by showing that she's in the midst of a mental break and therefore delusional about the events of the murders. However, that still doesn't change the fact that she would have had to teleport to commit some of these crimes. It goes to show that just because you can include a bombshell ending doesn't mean you should.
Vous êtes sûr qu'elle ne me voit pas?
Number 5, Adelaide and the Tether getting supplies. Us.
They think like us. They know where we are. They won't stop until they kill us.
or we kill them.
Jordan Peele's second film is a creepy look at the duality of human nature, and it leaves a lot of unanswered questions. Some are clearly intentional, but one of those questions feels like an oversight.
Look. It's the line.
At one point, Adelaide and the Tethered rise up to separate themselves from their real-life counterparts. That's all well and good, except they're dressed in red jumpsuits and carrying golden scissors.
It's our time now.
Where did they get these things? Peele never gives us any kind of explanation. They add to the intimidating look of the Tethered, but realistically, the clone should be wearing scraps and have no real weapons. Number 4, where did the egg come from? Alien 3. In the third installment of the series, the crew of the Sulaco is attacked by a facehugger that hatched from an egg.
It's here. We got condoms.
While it's an interesting concept, there's no way it could have actually happened. In Aliens, Ripley finds the queen and removes it by opening the airlock, and destroys all the eggs on board.
Are we gonna sleep all the way home?
With that in mind, it seems incredibly unlikely that one would have managed to survive. There's no plausible explanation for how the egg got on the ship, and none of the characters ever think to question it. It comes across as though the creators had just forgotten the events of the previous film, or worse, ignored them, just so they could have conflict for the sequel.
It was a mistake. There was no need for any of it.
Number 3, Michael's mask constantly changes. Halloween H2O, 20 years later. We don't even know what to make of this one. The 7th Halloween movie is centered around Laurie Strode and her attempts to survive after her brother finds her. While it has some great moments, they're somewhat overshadowed by one distracting aspect: Michael's mask.
It sets the scene.
As stupid as what it is.
The movie starts off simply reusing the previous installment's costume, but it quickly goes off the rails with a variety of rubber and CGI replacements.
Kinda reeks of cheap scare, doesn't it?
It looks different in nearly every scene, from the brows to the shape of the lips. The filmmakers apparently tried to edit around it, but it was still a constant distraction.
Who was that?
My brother.
Number 2, Mogwai rules make no sense. Gremlins.
Never feed him after midnight.
There are 2 core rules that must be followed to prevent the Mogwai from multiplying and becoming evil. Don't let them get wet, and don't feed them after midnight. While these guidelines are adhered to most of the time, there are moments that don't make sense.
Look, I know it sounds crazy. I know it does.
At one point, the gremlins have multiplied and are causing havoc. However, they're running around in the snow, and it doesn't affect them at all, even though snow, obviously, is just water.
Now I have another reason to hate Christmas.
It may seem like a small issue, but when the movie only has a few rules, it shouldn't have been hard to actually follow them.
Before we continue, be sure to subscribe to our channel and ring the bell to get notified about our latest videos. You have the option to be notified for occasional videos or all of them. If you're on your phone, make sure you go into your settings and switch on notifications.
Number 1, aliens coming to Earth. Signs. These creatures may have seemed vicious, but they have one clear weakness: water. In fact, at the end, it's the only way the protagonists are able to kill the one in their home.
I heard a theory that they don't like places near water.
While it's certainly a convenient way of handling the problem, it leads one to wonder why the aliens would come to Earth in the first place. It seems odd that they wouldn't be aware that they're vulnerable to water and that they wouldn't analyze the planet ahead of time.
There are only a limited number of explanations.
Even if they didn't know before arriving, surely they would have noticed the vapor in the atmosphere as they landed.
It can't be luck.
It's a plot hole that has been confusing viewers for over 20 years. Which horror movie do you think has the most unforgivable plot hole? Let us know in the comments below.
Explains a lot, doesn't it?
Did you enjoy this video? Check out these other clips from WatchMojo, and be sure to subscribe and ring the bell to be notified about our latest videos.